Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. Navigating love is hard enough on its own, right? But what happens when culture, family, and fate just seem to be actively working against you? Today, we're unpacking a really fascinating blueprint for relationship intervention. We're going to break down a specialized guide that details the exact services of a Melbourne-based love marriage specialist. What we're really analyzing here is how incredibly specific relationship roadblocks are identified, and more importantly, the structured methodologies offered to overcome them. So whether you're deeply interested in relationship dynamics, cultural conflict resolution, or you're just kind of curious about how specialized guidance is systematically structured, we're going to lay it all out for you clearly and logically.
Are obstacles standing between you and the one you love? Wow, it's a heavy, deeply emotional question, isn't it? But it's exactly how this framework frames the core issue. Because let's be real, navigating love and marriage isn't always a seamless, romantic comedy kind of journey. Honestly, often the most profound relationships encounter the absolute biggest resistance. By starting with this deeply empathetic question, the guide immediately acknowledges the difficulty, the stress, and the sheer emotional weight of love-marriage problems. It totally validates the struggle before even trying to offer a path forward.
To understand the solutions, we first have to analyze the barriers to love. Let's look at exactly what these modern relationship hurdles are.
So, the crucial point is that these challenges often come from external pressures just as much as internal ones. The framework identifies three main barriers. First up, family opposition. Because we all know the people who love you most can sometimes literally be the biggest roadblocks, especially when they have deeply ingrained expectations for your future. Second, we have inter-caste barriers, which really highlights how historical, cultural, and societal structures can actively complicate modern romance. And finally, just general relationship hurdles, representing that internal friction between the couple themselves. The big takeaway here? Love-marriage struggles are incredibly multifaceted. They require a super nuanced approach, because a simple fix for an internal argument is definitely not going to resolve a deeply entrenched cultural or familial block.
Now, when you're facing obstacles this daunting, experience is basically everything. This isn't about guesswork, right? The text highlights that this specialist claims to have helped hundreds of couples find their happily ever after. That's a massive piece of this blueprint. It reassures anyone seeking help that these specific hurdles, no matter how isolating they might feel in the dead of night, are actually common enough that a specialist has systematically navigated them hundreds of times. It brilliantly shifts your perspective from feeling totally alone in a problem to realizing, hey, there's a proven track record of success here.
Let's move to the next part and see how this builds. Knowing the problems is one thing, but what are the actual mechanisms for change? Instead of just generic one-size-fits-all advice, we're looking at a highly specific four-part toolkit perfectly tailored to the unique nature of those obstacles we just unpacked.
Now, what's really interesting about this setup is the structured methodology. It's a dual approach that leaves absolutely no stone unturned. On the highly practical side, we have love-marriage solutions and family consent remedies to directly tackle those interpersonal and external conflicts. But then it pivots into the metaphysical, utilizing a horoscope compatibility reading and psychic and palm readings. It's a totally comprehensive multi-angle approach designed to address literally both the seen and unseen forces impacting a couple's journey.
Let's look closer at one of those specific tools, family consent remedies. Remember our earlier breakdown of the main barriers to love? Family opposition was right at the very top of the list. So this remedy shows a direct, logical connection in the specialist's offerings. It recognizes that sometimes, the couple is perfectly aligned, but the environment around them is just toxic to the union. The solution? A highly targeted intervention aimed specifically at bridging that generational or cultural gap, basically turning stubborn familial resistance into lasting acceptance.
But it doesn't stop at traditional mediation. This blueprint casts a much wider cosmic net. It utilizes a horoscope compatibility reading to analyze the stars, the birth charts, and the cosmic timing of the union, right alongside psychic and palm readings for deeper intuitive spiritual insights. By offering these two distinct types of readings side by side, the specialist ensures that couples who find comfort, clarity, or direction through alternative and spiritual frameworks have the exact, dedicated tools they need to assess their relationship's full potential.
Moving on to the final part, your beautiful ending, moving past the obstacles.
And this brilliantly illustrates the emotional core of the entire methodology. Your love story deserves a beautiful ending. Man, that is a powerful, empathetic statement. It brings so much warmth, optimism, and just a deep sense of empowerment to the narrative. It reminds anyone reading that despite all that harsh family friction, the complex cultural barriers, or the exhausting internal hurdles, the ultimate objective is joy and fulfillment. It completely reframes the specialist's work from mere problem-solving to fiercely defending a couple's right to a happy conclusion.
Of course, none of this guidance can actually take effect without action. The guide concludes with a very clear direct call to action. Call or DM today for a confidential consultation. And you guys, the emphasis on the word confidential here is absolutely crucial. When you're dealing with inter-caste barriers, deeply unsupportive families, and highly intimate relationship struggles, privacy isn't just a perk, it's an absolute necessity. The text explicitly promises this safe, private space, which significantly lowers the barrier to entry for couples who might be totally terrified to speak out publicly about their hidden struggles.
So, we've unpacked the hurdles, the specialists' vast experience, and their specific toolkit that seamlessly blends practical solutions with spiritual insights. I want to leave you with this final thought based on everything we've covered today. If you were facing an insurmountable barrier in your relationship, and you had access to love-marriage solutions, family consent remedies, a horoscope compatibility reading, or psychic and palm readings, which one would you genuinely explore first? It's a really fascinating question about how we seek help and where we instinctively look for answers when our happily ever after is on the line. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep questioning and keep learning.